What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you a video for my top investments going into 2018. A lot of you guys send me messages quite frequently asking how can I save money playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or how can I be ahead of the curve when it comes to certain cards or certain decks. So I wanted to just pretty much comprise a list of certain cards and archetypes that you might want to consider investing in, not only because these decks have a very good chance of being, incredibly effective in the future, but also they have a very good point of entry so that if you get in now, it's definitely going to pay dividends, whether you just want to sell the cards and make a little bit of money, or if you're planning on playing any of these decks, then that way you're going to get in for the early price. But before we get into that, I want to give a big shout out to my newest patrons as always. So big shout outs to No Regards Gaming as well as Clinton, and also big shout outs to Robert and Thomas for upping their pledges as well. And if you guys want to help support me and the channel through Patreon, then check out the Patreon link in the description below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, like I said, I had a list comprised of a lot of different decks and archetypes. So I want to start with the archetypes first, and then we're going to move into some more select singles that you might want to consider investing in. Probably some good either main extra deck staples or as well as side deck cards to consider as well. The first deck I want to talk about is Pendulum Magician. Now this should really come as no surprise. You guys know that I preach Pendulum Magician being like one of the best budget decks, especially on a competitive level, that we've had in quite some time. You can basically pick up the deck and play it for a relatively inexpensive price compared to a lot of top meta decks that we've had over the past couple of years, and that's what makes the deck so appealing. The thing is though, with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite right around the corner in Extreme Force in February, this is where it's going to get a little bit crazy, because what you have to realize is that with Pendulum Evolution, a lot of these Pendulum Magicians only have a single printing. There are some exceptions with things with stuff like Wisdom Eye and things along those lines, but for the most part, if you're looking at cards like Astrograph Sorcerer, Harmonizing Magician, Double Iris Magician, Purple Poison Magician, all these cards only have one single printing, and you basically need 3 of them in almost every single Pendulum Magician deck that you're going to be playing, because pretty much Pendulum Magician is forecasted to be the best deck once Extreme Force hits, because Heavy Metal Foes Electromite is absolutely fucking absurd. So I would say whether you're planning on playing Pendulum Magician or not, get a core of the main Pendulum Magician monsters. The cards that are most likely going to go up are like Astrograph Sorcerer, just because Astrograph Sorcerer basically just enables all the bullshit with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite in general. But there's also cards that are more low-key you might want to consider getting some of, like Chronograph Sorcerer. This is a card that we haven't really seen much play, but basically because of the way you want to set up your Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, Chronograph Sorcerer is going to have a very crucial role in the Pendulum Magician deck going forward. So even though this is probably one of the lower end Pendulum Magicians, do keep that in mind that this is a card that might become a staple 3 of once we enter the Extreme Force format. Now, on the notion of pendulum decks, another pendulum deck you might want to possibly consider investing in is Zephyr. Now, a big caveat here, because one of the big reasons that Zephyr is so good in the OCG is not only because of the Link monsters that they have, but also because of the fact that Danglong is still legal. However, just because we don't have Danglong here in the TCG doesn't mean that Zephyr isn't still an incredibly powerful deck. What's crazy about Zephyr is if you look at the deck and you look at the prices of some of these cards, a lot of the 3-ofs you can get for under like 10 or 20 cents a copy. I'm talking cards like Zephyrath, which is one of the big playmakers of the deck. Zephyr Providence, which is one of the most absurd searching spell cards I've ever seen in this game. You got Zephyraxi, Zephyrenew. All these cards are incredibly inexpensive, and the only one that really warrants any bit of a price tag is Oracle of Zephyr, the field spell, and that's had multiple printings when you count its secret rare printing as well as the super rare printing coming out of Pendulum Evolution. This is a deck that still has a lot of potential once we get a ban list and the format kind of stabilizes, so you might want to consider the fact that maybe just investing, 10, 20, 30 bucks, picking yourself up a Zephyr core, because if someone manages to figure out how to make this deck broken here in the TCG, or if Danglong becomes legal again, which there is a chance that that possibly could happen, then Zephyr is going to definitely be a deck that's going to hit on the map. And yeah, sure, we are still missing a couple of Link monsters as well, but depending on how we get these other Link monsters that make the deck as powerful as it is, you definitely don't want to be behind on the Zephyr curve, because again, a lot of these cards haven't had more than one printing, and so if you don't get them now, you might miss your opportunity later. So definitely something to keep in mind. Obviously, it's low risk and definitely high yield, but it is kind of dependent on when we get the other Link monsters and if Danglong does eventually make its way back into the TCG. Now, another deck I did want to discuss is Burning Abyss. Burning Abyss is another deck that will be receiving a Link monster exclusive to its archetype, although we don't know the exact date here for the TCG, but this Link monster has made the deck very relevant in the OCG. So the fact that basically the entire Burning Abyss core is incredibly cheap outside of something like maybe Dante, but even so, Dante at the moment is still not that expensive. I believe you can pick up gold rare copies of Dante for like $6. If you want to go for the secret rares, I think it's like around 8 to 10 hovering at the moment. But again, Dante is another card that's been the target of multiple buyouts in the past, and we've seen that when people want to buy out Dante, the price will just shoot up immensely, and it can easily become like a $20 to $25 card. So again, if you really like Burning Abyss, or you're considering playing Burning Abyss once Cherubini hits the TCG, get in on the archetype now, and so that you're not paying for it heavily much later on. The last deck I wanted to discuss was Trickstar. Now, Trickstar, again, has a bit of a caveat, very similar to Zephyr, because Trickstar Reincarnation, I would say, probably has the ban list in its crosshairs, so you definitely want to keep that in mind when investing in this deck. However, if you look at the rest of the deck, the rest of the core is extremely inexpensive. I think Candinas as well as Light Stages are around $3 a piece, and all the rest of the cards you need are incredibly inexpensive, outside of maybe, let's say, like the Link monsters, because you need stuff like Firewall, but even then, that isn't really too expensive in comparison. Trickstar Reincarnation is really the biggest unknown here, because on the next TCG ban list, if Trickstar Reincarnation does get hit, that's definitely going to make the overall cost of the deck suffer tremendously, because now people are going to start thinking, well, if I can't play my Trickstar Reincarnations and Draw and Lock combo, the deck's not going to be as good. However, in the OCG, Trickstar is doing just fine on its own with only one copy of Reincarnation. Now, to be fair, the OCG does have other cards as well, such as the Jump promo and more things in addition to that, so their meta is a little bit different, so do keep that in mind. But you have to think, we're eventually going to get that promo here in the TCG at some point or another, and again, these are cards that have yet to have a reprint, and obviously, these might have reprints when the 2018 Megaton does come around, but that's not going to be out until late September, maybe August at the earliest, so you could just spend maybe 20, 30 bucks, pick yourself up a Trickstar core, maybe one Reincarnation just to be safe, and then maybe wait on the other two Reincarnations until we get our ban list. But if you feel like risking the money, if you don't think the Reincarnation is going to get hit, buy yourself up Trickstar Reincarnation and see what happens. There's definitely some risk there, but we saw what happened with Diagram on the couple lists back. Trickstar Reincarnation is kind of in the same boat at the current moment. Now, I did want to discuss some other cards as well that weren't really archetype specific, but we did talk a lot about Pendulums and how it's forecasted to be the strongest deck of the coming format, and that's why you're definitely going to want to invest into some Pendulum Hate as well. And Pendulum Hate is incredibly inexpensive for the moment, so this is definitely the opportunity to get in now. A card like Unending Nightmare is seeing tons of play in the OCG and is a very effective tool going against Pendulum decks, and it's only about $6 to $7 a copy and only has a single printing. Now again, like I said, this will probably get a reprint once we get the 2018 Megaton, but that's like 7 to 8 months away, and in that time, with Pendulums forecasted to be the best deck in February, it's very easy that overnight Unending Nightmare could become a $10, $15, maybe even $20 secret rare because it's only had that one printing, and that means that if the supply all goes away, the demand's gonna shoot up, and so is the price. So just take 20 bucks, buy yourself a playset of Unending Nightmare, and just feel safe about it because it's going to last you a long time moving into this format. There's also cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, which are only like 2 bucks a copy at the cheapest rarity, so again, why not just spend the $6, give yourself a playset, and make sure you have that peace of mind. Cosmic Cyclones are only like 3 bucks a piece. Another card that they're also using is Typhoon in the OCG, and that card is basically like a quarter, if anything, so again, you can just spend a couple bucks, get yourself some playsets of those, and you're gonna have all the Pendulum Hate that you need. And the last card I wanted to discuss was TG Wonder Magician. Now, this is a card that's going to basically play in tandem with Crystron Needle Fiber, even though we don't know when exactly we're going to be getting it. However, Crystron Needle Fiber is absolutely insane. It's one of the most played cards currently in the OCG, and TG Wonder Magician basically plays in tandem with that, and this card is currently demanding about a $7 price tag for its lowest rarity printing. I think as an ultra rare out of Legendary Collection 5Ds, if my memory serves correctly, but this is a card that, because it's basically a mandatory staple in addition to Needle Fiber, you're gonna want to get a copy of this card if you can. So go to your locals, you know, check out, maybe people have some for trade, or just buy one, maybe find one online for like 5 to 7 bucks, and get it now, because again, this is another card that's very susceptible to a buyout, and the price can easily shoot up on this if someone wants to make that happen. But guys, that's it for my top investments for 2018. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and if you have any top investments for cards you think might be a good buy moving into this new year. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video helpful, consider backing me on Patreon, because just by pledging only $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.